What's up guys, Asian here again with another theory crafting video, and today we're going to be going over the Maelstrom staff, specifically how much DPS can you expect to gain by using a Maelstrom staff versus a non-Maelstrom staff. Now pre-Clockwork City, when a lot of people used to ask how much DPS would a Maelstrom staff add to my Sorc or my Nightblade or whatever, a lot of people would say there was a wide range of answers, but the most common range that I've seen is anywhere between like 3k to 5k DPS, and of course there's a qualification. It all depends on how well you weave and things like that. But ever since Clockwork City was released, the way the Crushing Wall enchant works has changed. It is no longer an enchant, so it's no longer affected by infused. It is now a set effect, which means none of the weapon traits will actually affect how much you get out of the Maelstrom enchant anymore. So that kind of changes up how much DPS you can reasonably expect to get from using a Maelstrom Lightning Staff. It's obviously going to end up being lower now because infused, you aren't getting that extra, I think it was 25% before Clockwork City, or 30% extra onto your Crushing Wall enchant. So that's what we're going to be exploring today. So now if you don't have a Maelstrom bar staff at all, generally what you want to do is you want to keep your 5 and 4 piece up whenever you swap between your bars here. So I am using a Moondancer Inferno and Moondancer Lightning Staff, but you can replace these with Julianos and take the 4-piece Moondancer as one of your body pieces. So the whole point is whenever I swap to this bar, or my front bar or my back bar, I always have my Julianos and I always have my Moondancer up. If I were to replace these two staves with Julianos, for instance, and have my Moondancer on, let's say, my belt, I would always have my Moondancer up, my 4-piece Moondancer, and I will always have my 5-piece Julianos up, because I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then when I swap my back bar, if this is still a Julianos staff, this would still be 5 Julianos. So that's kind of the idea if you don't have a VMA staff, what you want to do when you're trying to make your build together. So we will be swapping out this back bar. The trait and the enchants are going to stay exactly the same. Still going to be Nirnhone, still going to be weapon damage enchant. So the only thing we're going to be changing is really the presence of the Maelstrom staff on the back bar. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with our Parses here. I do already have several Parses saved up, so we will be able to get a fairly accurate comparison. So one thing to keep in mind when we do take a look at our parse averages is the benefit of VMA VMA staff is going to vary from person to person and from build to build. It's going to depend on several factors. First of all, how many heavy attacks are you putting into your build? Are you a heavy attack build? Are you one of those heavy attack Sorcs? Or are you a spammable, using a spammable like Force Pulse? And if you are using a spammable, how well are you weaving on your front bar between your spammables? Because remember that the Maelstrom enchant only affects your light and your heavy attacks. It doesn't affect any of your abilities at all. So if you aren't able to weave between your abilities very well, then you aren't going to be seeing a very large increase to your DPS, just because you aren't able to get the most out of your VMA staff. Generally speaking, the better your weaving is, the more DPS you will end up getting from your Maelstrom staff. I'm just recording that parse onto our spreadsheet. Gonna go ahead and gain our ultimate back. So now we will be swapping out the lightning staff for the VMA lightning staff. So if you guys keep an eye on the combat metrics report down on the lower left hand side of the screen, you guys will be able to see kind of in real time how much DPS or how much higher you're able to pull if you have a Maelstrom staff. But like I said before, it's all going to depend on how well you can weave. So I'm using a Force Pulse build, and while my weaves are not gonna be perfect. I do miss some here and there just due to latency and mistiming. I do think that my weaving ability is better than your average ESO player. It's definitely not on the level of somebody like Fox or LZH or YOLO Wizard, but it is respectable and it is a lot better than some other DPS that I've seen in some of my raid guilds that I've been a part of. So you can see here, I'm pretty much hitting most of my weaves on point. For every ability, you always see a light attack weave, either directly before or directly afterwards, however you want to think of it. So for somebody who's not able to weave as well or as tightly, like I alluded to earlier, you're not going to see as big of an increase in your DPS when you do happen to get your Maelstrom bar. There we go. So that is our Maelstrom parse. So we're just going to quickly go into comment metrics so you guys can get an idea of how much weaving, how many light attacks you should be seeing on both bars. You can see here, my front bar I have 41 weaves, back bar 30 weaves, hitting about 7.2 K DPS on average hit, the DPS 32 and 3.2 and 2.4. Go to our non-Maelstrom bar, we can see here 2.4 versus 1.7, with the average hits being only 5.4 versus 5.6. We're still getting 45 to 31, so our weaving is still on point here. But we can tell that the vMA enchant is really making a big hit on the DPS and the average hits that our light and heavy attacks are dealing. Take a look here. Adding the vMA staff pushed the light and heavy attacks, light attacks up very close to, if not beating, Crystal Frags. If we take a look back here, Crystal Frags is beating out heavy, our light attacks are on both bars here. And if we take a look at our heavy attacks here, we're hitting only 40.4, and over here it jumps up here, we're hitting 7.8, so it's quite a large boost to your heavies and lights with the vMA enchant. So now we're going to go ahead and swap over to our spreadsheet. So this is our spreadsheet. We have 6 parses for each category, vMA on the left, without vMA on the right. Here are our averages, here's our spread, and this is the percentage difference that you can see between the two averages there. So just from a absolute standpoint here, we're looking at about a 2.3k increase in DPS, which results in a 7.5% increase in our DPS in terms of a relative performance. So adding in that vMA staff is a humongous boost to your DPS. It's probably one of the most substantial things you can do gear-wise that will help boost your DPS, but again, that caveat is it all depends on how well you can weave. My weaving is definitely pretty good. It's not amazing, like I said. I don't think it matches up to people like LZH or Fox or YOLO Wizard, but it's definitely better than the average ESO player, and it's a lot better than some other players that I've run raids with, both in the past and in the present. So that's something you want to keep in mind. If your weaving is not as good, if you're using, let's say, a heavy attack build or something like that, where you aren't getting a lot of light attacks in, you might see this disparity, this gaps, close a little bit. You will still definitely see an increase in your DPS, but it just might not be that 2.4, 2.5k that we're seeing here. So that's pretty much it for the vMA staff, so you can reasonably anticipate it adding at most about 2.5k, maybe even 3k if you are a top end 0.1% of the weaving magicka DPS. But percentage wise, you can probably expect on the low end maybe 3 to 4% increase in DPS. It is definitely a substantial boost, and I would recommend trying to farm for that staff if you can. Don't forget that transmutation is a thing due to Clockwork City, so you don't even need to get the Nern drop, you just need to get a drop and then just transmute it later on. You will have to obviously research Nerdhound, which will only cost you maybe about 12k, 13k gold on a guild trader, or you're just finding a Nern Crux and asking somebody in one of your guilds to make it for you. But in my mind, it is definitely worth trying to farm for that vMA staff. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys found it informative, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.